I feel like 50% of PDXCon this year will just be Mordred and Ben Magnus getting drunk. That is 50% of ParadoxCon anyway. And ParadoxCon, yeah, I'm so looking forward to that. And I guess there's going to be a lot of ParadoxCons here. Like, every single capital is called Berlin, so which one do we go to? Who knows? Could I bother you to explain a bit about the game and no clue about it? When I heard about it, it sounded awesome, if rather complex. First of all, I would suggest you head over to my YouTube channel. I have a getting started tutorial for Europa Universalis, which will kind of explain the basics and what's going on. That's probably the best way of kind of getting an understanding mechanically of what's happening. In terms of what this is about, every player plays as a particular country. Basically anywhere in the world. So if you go back to the view anything, or in fact, do we have a player map mode? It's probably diplomatic. Players. Here we go. Now we can actually see what all the players are. I should have done this probably far earlier. So we have quite a few European players, although Germany is very, very empty because there's a Brandenburg and... oh, there's a large Brandenburg. They've already absorbed Pomerania. They did not, however, get Danzig. Danzig is in the Polish sphere of influence as a vassal. And I believe that they require Danzig to form Prussia, so I don't know if these two are going to do a deal or not. But as I was saying, you play as a country, and then you control all aspects of that country. So there's military, which we've seen particularly during the war between the Portuguese, the Aragonese, and the Catalans. There's diplomacy, as we've seen between Portugal, Aragon, and France, allying against Castile to try and block Castile, because usually Castile is a very big power over here. So blocking Castile is actually a really big deal for pretty much everyone, because Castile tends to be a very major colonial power. There's trade also, which is something that I tend to focus on very heavily. So I will be watching the Dutch player, the English player, the French player, possibly the Ottoman player, and definitely Aragon's player very closely in terms of trade. So the world is split into different trade nodes, and trade flows between those nodes. So you can see, for example, where the trade flows by the arrows. These arrows don't change. It always flows in this direction, so it goes from east to west, generally. So Aragon is probably earning quite a pretty penny from trade right now. And if we click on their economy stats, we can see that 7 ducats of the 17 that they earn every year, 18 that they earn every year, is just from trade. And Aragon historically is a very good trade power. They are active in the Genoa trade nodes. They're probably pulling trade from, say, Alexandria, maybe Tunis, almost certainly Seville, and in fact we can see it by the ticks. So they are currently pulling trade from Seville into Genoa. They have 2 merchants. Every merchant allows you to basically get influence in the different trade nodes, and there are different ways of seizing that trade power. One is by owning provinces in that land. Another one is owning centers of trade. So you can see these icons. These are centers of trade, and they can be upgraded over time. Those tend to be very, very powerful. You can also protect trade with your navy. So if you have a strong navy, you can then control trade. So Aragon, I'm expecting to be a big naval power. The Dutch, eventually, when they get going. There's colonization. We're too early in the game yet. That's probably going to happen in the next 50 years or so. But like, America is actually a thing. They are alive. You can go there, you can colonize it, you can go to Africa, you can go to India, and the way that colonization works is you see these light grey provinces, these are empty, and you can send colonists to go and set up a colony there, and then you take control of that territory. You can also just fight abroad, so like the Congo is probably going to be a little bit concerned about Europeans coming along, because the Congo is a very, very wealthy area. It has a lot of trade goods, it has a lot of slaves, which are good for boosting plantation or cash crops like tobacco, sugar, spices plantation, I'm not sure they are. And then also down here in like Kilwa, where there's tons of ivory, you've got coffee and incense over here in Somalia and Ethiopia, and then spices, cotton, silk, that type of thing over in India, and then lots of spices over here in tropical wood and other stuff like that. And then controlling those more valuable trade resources are another thing for trade, so you might not be necessarily a colonial power for just blobbing out and taking lots of control. You might just have little outposts, which you can then use to chain ships together. Okay, so Granada has indeed fallen to Morocco. Thank you very much for pointing that one out, which is almost certainly going to upset the Iberians. So Morocco has planted a flag there, but Morocco is allied to the Ottomans, and the Ottomans are super strong in this. They're also allied to Austria. That is a very good selection of allies, because Austria is basically going to counter anything that Aragon tries to do, because if Aragon goes towards Morocco, Austria is going to block Aragon in Italy. And you may have heard Aragon talking a couple of times about how they wanted to control Italy. That's because they have got Naples under a personal union. And that means that Naples is basically subservient to Aragon, and eventually Aragon can just annex them, take control of that territory, and then they'll probably try to snake up into the rest of Italy. Also, again, talking about the trade, Aragon, as I've mentioned, is a big trade power. They're going to want to control as much of this yellow territory as possible. And half of Italy is in the Genoa trade node, and there are a lot of these centres of trade in Italy. So Aragon is absolutely interested in expanding into the Italian area to control that trade. Vijayanagara is doing good work in India. Vijayanagara is doing good work in India. Bahmanis and Vijayanagara tend to be big rivals. Orissa actually having a good game, taking out Bengal. Bengal is usually one of the major powers. They're basically gone. One province minor. Now we have the mighty Tirhut still standing strong over here. 13 development. This is such a lovely area. So much farmland, so much open plains. It is just so unbelievably wealthy. A couple of jungles on the peripheries, and also lots of silk. Lots of silk. It's really, really valuable. And Tirhut is who I was playing as. They do indeed start this big. So I was up against players like Jaunpur, Vijayanagara, Bahmanis, Mewar. Mewar tend to be a very, very powerful military power. That's who Helson was playing previously, and Helson had borders going from here to here. Maybe even a little bit further. I know that he got into Europe by land from Mewar in a multiplayer game, which is impressive. Muscovy, right, let's take a look at some of these wars. So Calico is again fighting against the AI. Calico is currently at war with Burgundy, Nevers, Brabant and Flanders. That's because they're allied to England. England's still fighting against Burgundy. England at this point is just trying to drain war score, or maybe try to get some blockades, although actually the longer this war goes on, the better it is for Mordred. Hey, what's up?
Hi, am I allowed to leave? Swap Nation. I've PM'd every player that could help me and they've all said no. So I'm just waiting to be food.
I mean, Castile is still a really major power, so I'd rather not.
But with no friends, what
no,
can I
Calico,
do?
I'm sorry. If you really do get eaten up in the future, then yes, but you're still a huge power. I don't just want you abandoning one of the major powers. Sorry.
But how do I come back from this?
Work out a way.
I've asked everyone, they've all said no.
Start using soft power. Start paying people that are rivals of your enemies to make them stronger. And colonization, yeah, you still have a coast. You can still colonize really strongly.
I can't fund a colonist. Make 2 ducats.
Not yet at the moment, no. Because you're still bankrupt, but as soon as the bankruptcy ends, you can. And your bankruptcy ends in a year. No, 6 months. You're still in this. You're definitely still in this.
I don't see where you're seeing this.
You're Castile. You're a major power.
Yeah,
you only actually lost, 7 provinces. This is like France trying to bail out in the first 20 years. Just no. Sorry.
Okay, well, when I die in 10 years, I guess I'll swap them in.
Fine. And that's one of the reasons... I'm not going to say anything. Right, so what is Timurids doing right now? Timurids are... I need to see more of the map. Timurids are currently fighting Ajam, Ardalan, Luristan. They are still just trying to expand. That guy still fighting in the Netherlands, probably over Friesland. Burgundy still taking that. I thought I just saw that colour was the same, but it's not. Poland is fighting. Who is Poland fighting right now? Poland... Oh, switch country. I did not have control pressed. Poland is currently fighting against the Livonians. So Denmark very often tries to go after Livonia themselves. This is one way of blocking Denmark from trying to get eastern ambitions. And I'm going to guess you vassalized them. So Poland is playing a real vassal game. He's making himself look a lot smaller than he actually is. But he's gobbling up a lot of territory. And all of these guys, being vassals, will jump into wars on his side. Holland we've already looked at. Crimea, we have not looked at Crimea at all. So the Crimea is going after the Great Horde. Does Crimea have any allies right now. Crimea is allied to Kazan, Muscovy, and Nogai. So one of the things that I was a little concerned about is Muscovy would like to gobble up Crimea. I mean, look at current affairs. But they have not done so just yet. I was wondering how the Ottomans would feel about this, because this is basically giving Muscovy access to the Black Sea already, and the Ottomans are probably going to be looking at this with a bit of a wary eye. Also, there is a lot of steppe territory here, and Poland loves steppe territory because it means they can get the Cossacks estate. Cossacks means more powerful cavalry. Poland is the best cavalry in the game already, so they're just getting even more powerful cavalry. So Crimea expanding is probably a good thing because it's going to be showing off a couple of their rivals. Who else have we got? We've got the Congo are fighting. Who are the Congo fighting right now? They have finally gone to war with some of their neighbours, although this is looking like a pretty big fight. Congo coming in with 18,000 infantry, 5,000 cavalry versus 14,000 infantry and 2,000 cavalry. So the Congo definitely does have the cavalry advantage there, and also the numerical, but it's kind of close. Like, they've picked a fight against a fairly large chain of AI powers. But he does have some very good allies. Like, this guy is a little bit removed from the fight. I mean, they could... Are they actually in this war? No, they're actually on the Congo side. So you're probably going to get invaded hard. But this is winnable by the Congo. Congo, I'm just going to double check, has no subjects. No, these are all just allies. No, he does have subjects. Luango and Nodongo are both subjects. Okay. And then we've got Bacon in the Ottomans. Who are the Ottomans currently fighting? The Ottomans are expanding into Anatolia, and they are currently fighting against Karaman and Dulkadir. So Karaman and Dulkadir. That's fairly normal. So having helped Morocco expand, Ottomans are clearly trying to get a big Morocco to help them counter against Iberian power. So actually, if Castile was wanting to try to get out of this, making friends with the Moroccans and the Ottomans, probably the Ottomans more, could be a way of doing this, because the Ottomans are not going to want a strong Aragon. Strong Aragon means strong navy. Strong navy means the Ottomans cannot control the Mediterranean, and this is their Mediterranean. The Ottomans usually have an enormous navy just because they can maintain a huge one, but Aragon has bonuses to galley combat ability. Ship cost reduced from that. That's the Ottomans. Keep on doing that. Aragon. Galley combat ability plus 20%. Straight out the gate, their ideas mean that their galleys are already stronger. Mercenary maintenance. Naval force limit modifier plus 10%. National sailor modifier plus 25%. Trade steering plus 20%. Although that's more trade rather than naval power. But yeah, the Aragon, don't dismiss the Aragonese. Especially if they take the galley combat doctrine, which means that their galleys will fight even better. Or maybe the capture chance, if they feel like they have enough numbers against the Ottomans to not need the extra combat ability. Rest in peace, sweet Great Horde. Yep, the Great Horde are definitely going down. If Jake were commentating this, then there would definitely be violins playing right now. Granada is dead. Granada will rise again. Lots of people in support of Granada right now. Poland is such a great early game nation. I actually really struggled with Poland early game. I found them to be like ridiculously strong late game, but early game I definitely struggled. Manchu is strong for the banners. Yeah, Manchu is good. Cold Rage, who's currently playing as Austria, wanted to play as Manchu initially, then switched to Japan, then switched to Austria. You'd say that Kazan still has the best cavalry. Maybe. I'm just saying that Poland is up there. Castile has 10 corruption. 10 corruption is nothing. 10 corruption just means you've changed government reform. So he was probably autocracy and now he's feudal nobility. Or else he has debased currency in order to raise cash. Why are you losing money right now? Because you're spending it all on rooting out the corruption. Yep, that's reasonable. And you're not investing anything into trade. I mean, at this stage, what Castile might want to try to do, although actually Castellan trade node's not worth a lot, but you are losing some to Genoa, and that's probably Aragon trying to steal that cash, and Genoa and Florence, is build up some of the centres of trade. Maybe Sevilla, because there's also the Guadina estuary and the natural harbour. In fact, looking around, nobody has really invested early on in upgrading their centres of trade. London starts as a level 2. That starts as a level 2, I think. That's the Sound Toll, Natural Harbour level 1. So, I mean, it's still early. We've only been going for 12 years. So it's still very, very early. Everything's fine for England. What's England doing? England have lost Calais. So they no longer get the... There's a big economic modifier England gets if they keep Calais. They also lost Co, but they do still have Normandy. Did Normandy get independence? They didn't. So England's lost some territory on the continent. France has started to take a little bit of Brittany, although actually only a tiny amount. How are we doing for aggressive expansion? France, no problem. Burgundy. Burgundy might want to be a little bit careful. So if aggressive expansion ever goes to more than -50 with a country, that country can join a coalition. If enough countries join the coalition, they can attack you and basically smash you. It's an anti-blobbing mechanic. So Aragon probably... Portugal probably has a lot of aggressive expansion with Castile because they took a lot of Castellan territory. However, because Portugal were allied with Aragon and France, those two don't really care about the aggressive expansion because they kind of tacitly accepted that. Morocco probably has some because they took over Granada. Like Tunis really dislikes them right now. And Tunis could actually join that coalition. Speaking of the -50, they're currently on a -59. However, more countries would need to join it, otherwise they wouldn't trigger it. That is a pretty big Tunis. Tunis has done a good job expanding there. Is Tunis allied to any of the big boys? That's England. I want Tunis. No. Why is Fiora paused? I don't know. Staple port. That's the modifier. Thank you. Did Austria manage to take Venice? No. Austria is not able to take Venice early on, simply because Venice has so many galleys, they can just blockade this. And as long as Venice controls at least one side of the strait crossing, Austria cannot cross. Although they did take Treviso. And usually Venice wants to keep Treviso and stick a fort there. Because if they control both sides of the crossing, even if they lose naval superiority in the Gulf of Venice, they can still cross over. So right now they need to maintain the superiority in order to do it. I think Holland is a bigger problem than you did. This is a coalition. When this is bright red like this, bad things are going to happen. So Holland has expanded way too quickly and is about to pay the price. And is in fact at war with them. So Holland is currently at war with Munster, Hesse, Nassau, Saxe-Lauenburg, Anhalt, Frankfurt, Cologne, Mainz, Hamburg, the Palatinate, Brunswick, Magdeburg, Trier, Saxony, Oldenburg, Helra, and Mecklenburg. Holland is probably going to die here. Or at least get reduced to an OPM. They will definitely be losing any of the territories that they just took. This is why you do not expand too quickly. Especially in Germany. Like the HRE, which is this whole region, has real limits on growing too quickly. That's why you have the likes of Brandenburg, ordinarily a very militaristic power, vassalizing instead of just outright annexing. So the best way to expand in Germany is definitely, or in the Low Countries, is definitely to vassalize. So Brandenburg owns Pomerania. Pomerania is a vassal of Brandenburg. And then later on you diplomatically annex them. That means you don't suffer as much aggressive expansion. Alright, so who are Holland's allies and have any of them stuck it out? Because they were allied to Denmark and to France. They did. So Holland is joined by France, Denmark, Sweden, Norway and Holstein. That is going to be bad for France. Because France was already very low on manpower. France does not have the troops for this. France is on the march though, so they were drilling. They are going to have gained a little bit of professionalism, which... Nope, not enough. So if they had 5% professionalism, they could burn some of that professionalism and turn it into manpower. That is one way of getting manpower back in the mid to late game. However, professionalism is also super, super strong. So for every, I think, 20%, you get one of these bonuses. So if you're at 20%, then you can build supply depots, which increase the supply in certain areas. So if you are like Castile holding onto one province, you stick a supply depot there, and suddenly you're not taking the attrition. Daviet went bankrupt. Okay, interesting. I'll take a look at that in just a moment. But I'm very interested in this war. So we've also got the Kalmar Union, which is Denmark, Sweden, Norway joining in. Denmark is going to be in a stronger position militarily, but how much are they really going to want to invest in this? Denmark has their own enemies nearby. Muscovy is definitely going to want to stop the Kalmar Union from expanding too much militarily. Poland is going to be rubbing its hands at the weakness in Germany right now, because these guys are just going to be tearing each other apart. And also I should mention, it might not look like much for the Dutch right now. Like they're at war with a bunch of small nations, but that's actually super, super bad, because small nations are really efficient. They are super efficient. Which means that they can have much bigger armies than they would be able to. So every country gets a base tax income that they just get for free. It doesn't matter what territories they have, their provinces then pay additional taxes on top of that. Furthermore, they get free force limit, which is the number of troops they can raise. That is also artificially increased, so having lots of small countries is actually a lot more dangerous, especially early on, than fighting one really big one. I think that the Irish are planning something. It's possible. I mean, taking this province here would be definitely a suggestion that they're going to go for the colonial game. We are still too early for ideas, although actually only just. I just noticed that they've got a level 5 Miltech. So as soon as admin hits level 5, they get this idea group. And once they hit the idea groups, that's when you can really start to customize your nation by choosing from these categories. And Kildare, I would be very surprised if they're not going for expansion ideas first. Portugal, probably also going to do that. It's going to be very interesting looking around and seeing what each of those nations has chosen. Right, let's go and take a look at Daiviet. So Daiviet went bankrupt. Why? I wonder if that's just what he's chosen to do. So he's taken out a bunch of loans, tried to build up a bunch of buildings. Although you do lose buildings that you build like 5 years prior to a bankruptcy. So that's actually a terrible strategy. I don't think it's because of wars. He's not lost any territory, which would usually coincide with that. Maybe he just invested too heavily in going after Champa. Or maybe he was at war with Ming or something like that. Who are your truces with? That's probably... Hang on. Hey,
Mord, you like this coalition war?
That's an amazing coalition war, and it was perfectly timed, because I was just explaining why you don't want to expand too fast, and then that happened.
You want to expand as fast as possible, mate. No. You want to just take it all. Just boom, bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom, dead. So I'm somewhat surprised that France and Denmark joined you in that war. Because France is looking a bit shaky because they have very little manpower. Oh, he's left again. Talking to myself. Maybe embrace the institution. That doesn't usually make you go bankrupt. I was wondering if Dai Viet was at war with Ming, which is why I was checking the truces there, but their truce is literally just with Champa. So I guess he just over-invested in that fight, which seems weird to go bankrupt for that. So I might need to drag Dai Viet in. Let me just double check they're not fighting anyone. No. So Arachnos, we're going to grab him. Arachnos. Can't drag you down. There's too many players. Okay, that's a big problem. You can't actually drag people down and scroll on Discord. Oh, there we go. Hey! Just brought you into the commentator's box here.
Hey.
So I heard you went bankrupt.
Yeah, what happened was I declared war on Champa to vassalize them. Then Lang Zhang decided to jump in on Champa. Then when I vassalized Champa, I was still at war with Lang Zhang, and I took 3 provinces. I was tempted to take 3 provinces to the south, but they called in other allies, and I had to call in 32 loans.
Whoa, okay.
And I defaulted.
Yeah, I was just surprised that you didn't have a truce with them. I was looking around, like, you just have a truce with Champa. This can't possibly have happened with just Champa. But apparently it did.
Yep, because Lang Zhang wanted Champa right as I was 2 ticks from vassalizing them.
Wow, that's really irritating. That's really irritating. And also kind of hilarious.
I figured it'd be hilarious if you knew.
Yeah, I was like looking at this, just scratching my head. It's like, how is this possible? How on earth have you done this?
Lang Zhang.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's how it happened.
Yeah, always be careful about piecing out and vassalizing someone when that vassal is at war with somebody.
So it happened just as I was about to hit vassalize, then, at war. You gotta be kidding me!
So did you white piece them?
I did.
Okay. And how long do you still have on the bankruptcy?
Well, I did it, I think, 2 years ago, so where do I see that?
1460. If you go to the government tab, then country modifiers, the first icon is bankruptcy. So yeah, 22nd of March, 1460.
Yep. I got a long time.
Yep. Okay, fair enough. So how are you feeling about Ming being right next door to you?
Honestly, as long as I don't try and separate from Ming, crap.
Oh, rebels. Yeah, that's not good, especially when you're A, drilling, and B, on 50% morale. I'm not sure you should even try to fight that.
Well, I was going to give that to Champa, but my nobility have a state there.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to put you back into chat so you can get on with fighting those rebels if that is what you choose to do.
I'll just be in my corner crying.
Have fun with that.
Thanks.
That's actually hilarious. Wow. Alright, so if we go back over to Europe, do we have any other interesting fights? So you are still fighting the Great Horde to help out Crimea. Crimea still hasn't peaced out. Calico apparently has the best king's name. Enrique Enriquez. Fair enough. Aragon is fighting someone. Who is Aragon at war with? Aragon's fighting the Pope. So, the Aragonese ambitions to expand are going forwards. Fighting the Pope, though, is dangerous. That's going to make all of the Catholics in the world hate you. And then you're also in serious danger of the Pope excommunicating you. If that happens, then every single Catholic nation gets a CB against you. That is a valid reason for war. So ordinarily, if you declare war on someone without having a CB, then you take a massive stability hit. It's generally not advised. You also take even more aggressive expansion just for declaring the war, and then even more for the peace deal. If you have an excommunication against you, then the CBs against you are also very good, and the CBs are not all created equal, which means that they can take more land from you in a war or other agreements, basically. So going after the Papal State is dangerous. Usually you want to wait until the Reformation has started. The Reformation has not started, which means the whole of Europe is Catholic right now, which means the whole of Europe is going to hate you. And yes, this is a multiplayer game. Human players don't care as much, though they might well try to make use of this. This would be, for example, a easier way for Castile to get back into the game. Or if Aragon has any other rivals, looking at you... Actually, you're not Christian. You can't do that. Maybe someone like Austria, who wants to stop Aragon expanding into Italy, might do something about that. France, if they were thinking of backstabbing Aragon, might. Any of Aragon's rivals might do it simply for the power projection. And your rivals are... Okay, your only Catholic rival is England. But your enemies are Venice, England, and Hungary. Venice is almost certainly going to want to stop Aragonese trade power going through here, because Venice is in the Venetian trade node. They are a direct rival to the Yellow Genoese trade node, and they will want to stop the trade flowing into Genoa and have it flowing into Venice instead. So Venice is definitely going to be looking at this with interest, going, Venice would also very much like to stop Aragon expanding in Italy, because that's going to be very bad for them. So this is a dangerous move. This is definitely a dangerous move. And you're also going to see a lot more of the AIs ganging up against him. So you may see someone like Milan or Genoa going against them just to stop them expanding there. Who are the Papal Cardinals? 3 French, 2 English, 2 Austrian, 2 Portuguese. So nothing too dangerous, but the Papal controller is the Pope. So the Pope can just excommunicate. This is a dangerous move. You don't want to do this early. There is a reason the Pope tends to survive until much later into the game, and this is it. It also decreases your papal influence. Papal influence is basically a currency you can cash in some very, very nice bonuses. So if you have 50 papal influence, then you can get a plus 15% national tax modifier. That is a huge bonus to the amount of money you can make. You can also get some really nice ones like this one, 50 for 1 mercantilism. Usually mercantilism costs you like 100 military power. So this is a way, one of the very, very few ways in the game to get mercantilism without paying monarch points and without just waiting for relatively rare events to fire.
Hey, Mordred.
Yo.
So, Crimea cannot keep up on speed 2. Like, I'm spending most of my time literally just going back up on speed.
Okay.
And Crimea and Sweden are the two that are slowing us down a lot.
Okay. Have you spoken to them about it?
I have not, because I don't think they're in chat, because they're the two ones that aren't talking. So I've been kind of like, trying to keep up with my game, and then
All right.
keep it going
I
for you.
can't actually chat in-game chat. My messages don't appear. So ping them in-game and just say, if you have the stream up, close it. If you have anything else that could possibly be using internet, close it. I do know that we had problems with Trav in the past, and if this continues, we'll have to kick them.
Okay, will do.
Thanks.